Welcome to our TV network, your ultimate destination for all things exciting and essential. From mouth-watering food to the latest in fashion, health, education, music, movies, and news, plus thrilling sports and breathtaking travel. Our TV network brings it all to you. Tune in today and experience the best of every world, all in one place, rtv.network.
Hello. Welcome to the Coaxum Report. This is Terry Coaxum, and I am super excited today to be joined by Jackie, my sister from another mister. Jacqueline, how are you today?
Good, Terry. How are you?
I'm blessed. I have some technology difficulties today, but other than that, everything is good. I'm super excited to be on having this conversation with you today. We had a wonderful panel discussion around demystifying AI. I could not wait to have you back on the show. But before we get started, Jacqueline is from JJ Disruptive Enterprises. And if you are watching us today on our TV.network, you can also watch us on Amazon Fire, on Android, Apple, Roku, and you can also download the app at OurTV.network. And as we're listening here on streaming live, you can also listen to us on WSTX Bloomberg. So Dr. Jackie, how are you? Welcome to the Coaxum Report.
Good. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me and having me on the Coaxum Report. Excited to be here.
Absolutely. You know, I love when I was reading Jacqueline's bio and it said that she is a spirited leader. A spirited leader. And I could speak to that because her energy is infectious, right? She's an entrepreneur, a teacher, a speaker, change maker, and of course, trusted business advisor. And I had the pleasure and honor to actually work with Dr. Jackie when I was working for the Obama administration and the Office of Advocacy. So I am delighted. I could not wait for this interview, Dr. Jackie, because you brought so much power to our panel discussion. And so before we get started, I always kind of like to set my team members up. I tell them to get their paper out so that they can have their nuggets ready because I know that they're going to be impactful. But before you start talking to us about JJ I just want to kind of talk to you a little bit about who is Dr. Jackie and how did you get to play in the space that you're playing in? And more importantly, I'm looking behind you and I see live, laugh, and love much. And I think that really speaks to all that you do and all that you are. So talk to me a little bit about how you got to where you are right now.
Sure. So just a little background information from me. I currently reside in New Jersey, but originally from New York. Once a New Yorker, always a New Yorker. Interestingly enough, brought up in the Lower East Side, short LES. For me, it was, growing up, it was always about community. That's something that was ingrained in our household. Community and education, that was going to be the changing force in whatever we decided to do with our lives. And for me, being a change maker and a community builder is part of who I am. And when I say that, I've had some great opportunities, some amazing mentors that have guided me through different processes, getting me to where I am today. All right. So one thing I always love sharing is that at the beautiful age of 58, I acquired my doctorate. Not that too many people continue their education after a certain time. There was a lapse in between, I have to tell you, before I decided to move forward. But for me, it I felt I needed something else. And I'm a lifelong learner. So that means that I'm continuously engaging in information and learning about new things, which drives us to the conversation that we're going to have today, which focuses on AI. Right? This is something that's new, that no, in terms of 2 going on 3 years, the way we've been using it, it's been around for a lot longer than that. But in the mainstream is where it's
Right.
coming into play. But part of me, it's also about making sure that all individuals have access to it and that everyone at one point or another will
That's
feel
right.
comfortable with using it. So that has brought me kind of full circle in terms
Absolutely.
of everything that I do. It's kind of bringing, I tell my students all the time because I'm also a professor that, they
Absolutely.
always ask
I
me,
love
how did
the
you
way you
get
put it.
there? How did you get there? And I was like, well, I have to tell you,
That's
my
right.
undergrad, honey, I graduated with a
That's right.
degree in sociology. However, it all ties in. I'm in the business world now, academia, it all ties in. So I said, it's never a straight line, whatever your path is going to be, but it is critical that you do stay connected to everything that's going on around you, especially as it applies to business for me, because my passion is entrepreneurship and making sure that everyone has access to those resources to ensure that they're going to be able to foster some growth, whether on the personal level, business level, whatever that may be. So, full circle, that's where I am now. And it's really focusing on the world of AI. All because I wear many hats. Another hat that I wear is that I'm a regional director of a small business development center in New Jersey. And this is kind of where I met Terry on wearing that hat. And I've been doing this for quite some time, definitely over a
That's
decade and
right.
a half. And the things that I learned was that in certain communities, people are not even aware of the resources that are out there for them, that they could tap into these resources to really help them either identify a passion that they may have or a business idea that they may have, and it could really elevate them to a whole different level in terms of social and economic standing. So for me, any time that I can contribute to that space, I'm here, where you mentioned, Terry, that I'm passionate. I'm spirited. Okay, spirited and passionate. I laugh because people, when they hear me speak, they're like, "Oh, your passion coming right out." There's no way you're not infectious in terms of
That's
wanting people to get engaged. So for me, it really is about whatever I learn. How do I share it? And hoping that those that I share
absolutely.
with will turn around and share it with others. So that's the way we build community.
That's right. Absolutely. Dr. Jackie, I don't know what's going on, but your service seems to be skipping in and out on every
Oh,
word.
wow. It is?
So check the connection and just make sure
Okay, just
it's
let
skipping
me.
in and out. But I do want to kind of,
Okay, I'm not sure. Still, I know I've been having talk
I
about
want the
technology
readers and
issues. That
listeners.
was me this morning. And I don't have anything. I'm trying to see if I close.
Yeah,
I
it's great
really,
when it works.
yeah, it is. It's great when it works, but when it doesn't, we definitely have those connections. And for some reason, I'm trying to close everything else that I may have open that may be pulling on the bandwidth.
Okay.
And
So as you're doing,
hopefully
I just want to
that'll
highlight. Okay, and as you're doing
help.
that, I want to highlight what you just talked about because you
Okay.
gave a lot of great nuggets, right? And so, you talked about getting your doctorate at the tender age of 58. And so saying it's never too late, right? So if there's something that you're looking to do, Dr. Jackie is truly a testament that you can still do whatever it is that you come to do, right? Commitment and education. She talked about being committed and being educated and just pouring into yourself. One thing about education, it does not ever end as long as you're alive, right? You're able to learn from everyone, from every experience, from every interaction. And so Dr. Jackie is talking about being committed to that, being committed to pouring into yourself. Another one she talked about is really staying connected, which is one of the nuggets that I love to basically highlight, because there is no I in team, right? So there's always
Mhm.
opportunities for you to build and to grow if you're working with other people. And Dr. Jackie has the unique pleasure of being able to work with adults in the business development center she's in, and to work with young people in academia. And so I think it's always really important for us to understand that staying connected. I always tell my students that, on the first day of class, I have them look to their left and look to their right and understand this is now your mastermind group. This is the group, in the words in the book, that will be able to help take you to that next level. And so when you talk about staying connected, I think network. And your network is your net worth, which is so important. And so I'm glad that you brought that up.
Mhm.
Access, resources, fostering growth and elevation. All of these words that Dr. Jackie is throwing out, I need you to hold on to them, because this is how you're going to be able to build, to grow, to thrive, and not just to be in business, but to have your business build wealth for you. And so that's why it's really important for us to have this conversation at this time. So, Dr. Jackie, I want to thank you so much for all of those awesome and amazing nuggets that you knocked in the door just giving us, right? I want to talk a little bit about what inspired you to create JJ Disruptive. When I think about AI, right, and I think about how it's disrupting the industry, and I think about how we're
Mhm.
able to leverage it if we're in the game, right? So if we're at the table and not just on the menu. And so it's interesting, for me to have you tell the story, because the small businesses that are listening to me are listening from around the world. So whether you're in St. Kitts or you're in Ghana, wherever you are, they're able to listen to your testimony. And so I want you to talk a little bit about JJ Disrupted and how the mission ties into AI and how it's more accessible and understanding and standing for your business. Like, I really want you to kind of talk us through the process of JJ Disruptive, which in itself is already telling us what you're doing.
Exactly. So I have to tell you, J&J, and it actually stands for Jackie and Jamie. Jamie is my niece, who is actually two
Oh,
decades younger than me. So she's younger, and looking at perspective from different age groups. And we started having a
mm,
conversation. You know how you get up and you have a epiphany and you're like, I said, you know what we should do? And at that time, I was very much into podcasting. And I said, wouldn't it be
mm-hmm,
great if we can elevate other women through our conversations? Because her and I have these really meaningful, deep conversations. And I said, imagine the
mm-hmm.
content that we could create. So that was the
That's right.
start of J&J, just that conversation with my niece
Wow.
and what we wanted to see moving forward. Things tend to change. We're still having the conversation because we really wanted to focus just on podcasting and content. But because the
Right.
way the world changes in the business community, we have to pivot. We have to adapt. So part of it is that we decided as we're moving forward, and I'm telling you, we are redoing our mission statement as we're moving forward, right? So for
Wow.
us, I said, I definitely want to bring in my consulting piece of it, the whole piece continuing with content creation, uh, definitely making sure that we're connecting with our audience. Our audience tends to be the underserved community and women, and always bringing in our youth because they are our future, and making
That's
sure
right.
that we're introducing them to entrepreneurial, the mindset, opportunities. And AI for me was a conversation that I had with a friend and colleague who worked with me, putting together what we call accelerators for the Small Business
Mm-hmm.
Development Center. And he was heavily engaged in OpenAI. And as he was doing that and he was taking off with that, he just let me see a glimpse of what the
Mm-hmm.
capability was under AI. That being said, I always said, God puts people in your path for a reason.
That's right.
A session with a client who was Hispanic and wrote a business plan in Spanish. And while I'm Hispanic and I could translate, it was technical. And I said, oh my God, this is going to take me forever. How am I going to be able
Right.
to translate all this information, so this way we can see how we can continue to assist this individual in moving his business idea forward. My friend turns around and goes, not a problem. He opens up his laptop, takes the plan, puts it on OpenAI. We're talking not even minutes, full
That's right.
fledged,
Second.
comprehensive plan. I turned around and
That's
said,
right.
what? I
That
need to
right.
know more about
That
that.
part. That
I
part.
need to know
That
that,
part.
because this is the only way that I can take again knowledge that I've acquired and share it with the rest of the world. That being
That's right.
said,
Disrupted. Changing the
change
game. Being
is
disrupted.
disrupted. The absolutely, Terry. Everything, the world that we live in is constantly being disrupted. Industries are
That's right.
constantly being disrupted. So
That's
this
right.
AI is disrupting everything that we do, the way we see it. But my thing
That's right.
is, as I engaged in a project that he brought me on for MasterCard in creating a small business bot for the underserved community, I learned a great deal of not just what AI does, but how it does it, how it was put together. And to me, that was critical, because also what I learned behind there
Wow.
was how it can affect different communities, right? And it is, what are the implications that it has
Hmm.
for the underserved communities? One thing that I learned is that when you're looking at AI and it's being created, it's a bunch of data sets that's put together, massive amounts of data sets. And when you look at AI, it really mimics whoever the creator is. And the reason they brought me onto the project was
That's
because it
right.
was focusing on the small business community, and I am a subject matter expert in the small business community in helping individuals develop their business. So the running joke with the group, which I met these incredible, talented individuals from across the board, meaning nationally as well as from Canada. There's someone that was working from India. So this was just amazing, an amazing experience for me. I realized that,
Right.
there were things that they actually showed me and said, look, when someone creates it, it mimics who the person is. We're trying to mimic your brain. And the reason we're trying to mimic your brain is because you've been helping people for years with their businesses, those that are in the underserved community. How do you communicate with them? How do you
That's right.
get them to feel comfortable? So that was part of my journey, learning more about it. In that, one of the things that took me aback was, and we know this already, but I guess because it's not always so in front of us, is that there are biases. We know we live in a world of biases, whether we
Oh
like it
yes.
or not, it exists, right?
That's right.
Well, if a certain group of individuals are
That's
creating this artificial intelligence, it's going to mimic that group. The reality is that AI, when
right.
it was created by basically white men. Nothing against them.
Right
However,
males. Yep.
right. However, it's not reflective of who I am as a Latino woman. It's not reflective of who you are
Right.
as an African American woman, and anyone else in between. So what we realized was there's biases. You have to make sure that you train that bot to address those biases and make sure that it's giving information in a way that, not just that it's acceptable, because language is key, especially generative AI, because it's basically large language model and how you speak, but it's also
This is a
what
big
is
data
the
set.
information that is
Yep.
inclusive. It's not always inclusive. One of the individuals that I worked with, and she just wrote an amazing article that I said, I'm going to talk on a show and I'm going to bring up your article because I just thought it was amazing. And her name is Dr. Shakaya Robinson. And her article is Balancing Progress, the Rise of Generative AI and its Implication for the Black Communities. And it is full of, you talk about nuggets. This is amazing because not only does it touch on what I feel I need to do to communicate with the business world and underserved communities and everyone overall, because my goal here is to make sure that you're using AI, use it ethically, use it responsibly, making sure that everyone in the community has
That's right.
access to it, because that's where the difficulties come in. So while
That's right.
AI, for those of you who may be afraid of it, I always challenge you and say, play with it. You can't break it. However, when you play with it, I want you to use it responsibly.
That's right.
It's not about it doing your job, it's about it helping you
That's right.
enhance your job. And one of the conversations that I've heard a great deal of people say, oh,
Right. Giving you
job,
tools to
or,
do your job better.
that it's going to do the job for you, that it's thinking for you. I said, no, it's just speeding up the process for you. But there's this thing called a human loop. That's you.
That's right.
You have the right to say, I will allow
That's
that
right.
artificial intelligence to do this, or I will not allow it to do it. It is still up to you. And it will continue to be the human's job to turn
And
around
it's
and
like
say,
any other tool, Dr. Jack. That's
I
right.
agree that if you don't use
It's
it
just like, and it's
wisely,
just like any other tool that we use, right?
absolutely. So looking at it and understanding what are the implications that it has for that entrepreneur, right? For that business leader, how can you use it effectively is key. So as I was learning and I started going down, like I call it my rabbit hole, because sometimes I'm like, somebody needs to stop me because I just keep on going and going into it. One of the things that resonated with me was the part about the ethics behind AI, and its usage. And again, with that, we're talking about the biases, the
That's right.
disparities that exist with it, and how we as a community can really work with these bots that are being created, or these tools, because not everything is a bot. It could be a tool that you're using AI for, and making sure that it is receiving some of your information, some of your data. And I'm not talking personal, because you never want to put any of your personal stuff out there in AI, but making sure that you're helping to create that data that the bot is using. So this way, when it responds to you, it's making sure that it's inclusive. So as us in the underserved communities, or helping those in underserved
Absolutely.
communities, women.
Absolutely. And I had pleasure last week. I had
Mhm.
is I had the
Well,
pleasure of having Assembly Member Clyde Vanell on last week. And as you know,
right.
he was a part of the panel. Right. He was a part of the panel. And so when you're talking, when you are walking us through the guardrails, the ethics part of this, making sure that we're using it as a tool and not to do the actual work for you, because the human is the smartest in this equation, right? So you're making sure that you're putting prompts in that represent you. But one of the examples he gave last week was about the banking industry, and I think it was mortgages. So there is, of course, and like you said, it's a large data set, it's a large language model, so it's a lot of information coming from all over, and there is hallucinations. He even talked about that as well.
Absolutely.
But going back to the data for Black and brown people to receive mortgages, right? He said that it was a bias, it was an innate bias
Mhm.
that was allowing this artificial intelligence to make decisions about Black and brown folk not getting mortgages. And so they had to go back and say, hey, listen, there has to be some
Mhm.
things in place to make sure that this is not happening. One of the examples that you also gave an example of how some of this bias can come about. I think you were looking for opportunities, maybe in a business or something, and it gave you this set of opportunities, but not this set, because it made a
Mhm.
decision that because you were Black and brown, you may not be able to do this over this, which isn't something that you want artificial intelligence to decide for you. So there are biases in this, but I'm
Mhm.
encouraging my small business owners that are feeling like this is complex and intimidating to, like you said, to put in correct prompts, to make sure it's looking like you, to use the paid model so you can kind of play with it. And like you said, you cannot break it. It is
Mhm.
making jobs, making you work smarter and not necessarily harder. Similar to the example you gave about the business plan. It probably would have taken you 6 to 8 hours to translate and
Mhm.
perfect. So you don't just want to translate the business plan, you want to translate it and you want to perfect it. You want to make sure that whoever's getting this document, that is a true representation of your small business owner. And AI was able to do what we are able to do in seconds, right? Similar to me in proposals. I have contractors. I'm a business development analyst, and I do a lot of business development. I work with contractors. They're tradesmen. They're heads
Hmm.
down. We're doing our work, we heads down. When you have a company that says, I need 6 proposals with the scope of work or 6 invoices with the scope of work in order for you to get paid, they're like, say what now? I can
Hmm.
take the scope of work that they did and all of the information with their equations, add the taxes, and do it in seconds using AI. And I think it's really important for small business owners to understand what this tool is, just like any other tool. My dictionary was a tool. Your thesaurus was a tool, right? The calculator is a tool. These are all tools that we use. We're not saying let it replace. Those things didn't replace anything. They just help you enhance and calculate a little quicker and smarter so that you could work smarter and not necessarily harder. And that's why it's really, really important. So, Dr. Jackie, how does JJ Disruptive aim to simplify and demystify all of this for our clients that are working in this? You are, wherever you go, you are the small business expert.
Hmm. So
You
for me,
are.
having the opportunity to
So how?
engage in such an
Go ahead.
amazing project with MasterCard was key. Part of it is going out and speaking with individuals, putting together
Ah,
courses and programs that allow people to start at the beginning, wet their feet, get their appetite going, intermediate, and then advanced. We learned years ago when we started using social media what was the path that had to be taken in order to get people acclimated with using the tool. So under J&J Disruptive Enterprises, for us is about communicating, actually using some of the tools, because I'm a firm believer if I'm going to
that's
introduce you to a tool, I better be able to use it, and I need to let you know what the outcomes are going to be. So for
that's
us, within the organization itself, is using the tools, right? Every day I learn more and more about a different tool
that's right.
that is helping
So now
my business
understanding, so using the
become
tools,
efficient.
right, understanding, understanding the tools, using the tools, understanding some of the misconceptions, some of the myths, being ethical about it, knowing what it does and how it does it was important to you. So all of these are really, really important factors in understanding AI and demystifying it for the small business. And so I want to actually ask you about the role, because in this MasterCard project, it was a world project. You're talking about people in Canada, talking about people in Asia, you're talking about India, you're talking about all of the folks that you work with, but you particularly, what people often think of AI as futuristic. We happen to know it's been around forever, right?
Mhm.
And all the big companies are using it. What are some of the ways that AI is already shaping our daily lives, and what we might realize in what it's doing for us right now?
Okay, one of the
It's
things
already
is
shaping our
it,
lives.
it is look, no matter what tool you're using right now, and I'm talking, it could be Outlook, it could be Google, it already exists in there. You would be
Right.
surprised
That's true.
how many applications you're
That's right.
using right now.
Facebook.
And look for those little stars. It's like one big star and then a couple of little stars behind it. That's AI. Anything that you're using it in, my thing is don't
Yeah,
fear it, engage it, but see how it works for you. There's certain tools that I don't like regarding AI.
that's
I feel they need to either be revamped or more of something that just doesn't work for me. There's others that are amazing, that have allowed me to become more efficient, more effective. I'm able to do more in terms of
that's
brainstorming, using
right.
my creativity, and it's really helping me move forward. And when I say me, I'm talking about the organization, both organizations, my own as well as the one that I work for. So when I look at it and say
Right.
where has it not permeated? Because it's in health. It's in, oh my God, it's in everything. Health, human resource, accounting, especially,
Everything.
marketing is out
Just
of this
little things.
world.
Right.
Any
That's right.
aspect of
That's right.
business is
Not
there.
only that, let me tell you, I have to interject for a minute, right? So I listen to Audible. I listen to Audible
Right.
all the time. I always try to feed my mind whenever, down. And I'm listening to Audible the other day, and I purchased this, and it says it was artificially generated, the voice, and you would never have known it had they not, given disclosure in the beginning. I was so surprised. I was like, I thought I was gonna hear doo-doo-doo, like digital kind of robotic. It was someone. It seemed so real. Normal. And then that's the other thing, right? Assemblyman Clyde Vernell talked about. He said in TV shows they're using AI to generate images of people instead of having to pay all the. So these are all things, like you said, it's everywhere. We do it in our cartoons. I just watched Moana 2 last night, right? That artificially generated. We've been doing this for so long, but it's time for us to level the playing field and let individuals, especially our small businesses and others, understand not to be afraid of it. It's here, but it has to be used ethically. It has to be, it can make your job a lot smarter as opposed to harder. And then there's just all of these tools like other tools. So we're demystifying it in what we're in the conversations that we're having.
With the Bloomberg Small Business Report, I'm Tracy Jonke, brought to you by Dell.com. Locally owned shops are not the only ones getting ready to welcome customers on Small Business Saturday. Restaurants, caterers, bars, bakeries, and coffee shops take part too. And discount-minded customers will find deals at those places as well. You don't even need to order from the menu, especially if your refrigerator is full of Thanksgiving leftovers and dining out is the last thing on your mind. Restaurants will gladly sell you gift cards, often at a discount, to spend on a future meal. Future business is another reason independently owned restaurants want to catch your eye, because there's a good chance that if you decide to try one for the first time, it won't be the last time. American Express, which founded Small Business Saturday, says 61% of consumers who shopped and dined the day away last year intended to return to the businesses they discovered and become regulars. And that's the Bloomberg Small Business Report. With the
Hello.
For thousands of years, humans have searched for better and faster ways to trade with one another across the globe as a way to improve our world. And in that time, the principles of commerce have remained the same: to finance transactions, to mitigate risk, and to connect buyers and sellers. But what has changed is that the world has gotten smaller. Barriers to entry are declining, and technology is bringing the world forward into a new economy. Throughout it all, Coaxum remains a constant partner. We're here to guide and support you through this new frontier of trade, empowering U.S. businesses to export safely and confidently. In fulfilling our mission, we'll help you navigate and overcome new challenges successfully. Together, we'll help make this world better. Whatever the future holds, no matter where we go or how we get there, Coaxum will be along for the ride.
Reimagine a world where the Caribbean is seamlessly connected, where our people, our cultures, and our economies move freely across the islands. This is Connect Caribbean, more than a ferry service. It's the heartbeat of a new era, an era where economic opportunities expand, where trade flows freely across our seas, and cultural exchange flourishes. We are linking businesses, empowering communities, and reigniting the hope for a truly integrated Caribbean. Together, we're shaping a brighter, more unified future for the Caribbean. Connect Caribbean, connecting our islands, our people, our future.
I used to watch BET, MTV, VH1, now I watch Tempo. Soca, Calypso, Reggae Dance, oh, don't stall, better get tuned in to the Tempo. Don't have cable, they got an app. Go to your app store, download that. Whether it's tourism, cuisine, or the social scenes, if it ain't Tempo, it's a rap. Who got the Caribbean views? Tempo. It's the latest in Caribbean news. Tempo. You tryna cook Caribbean food? Tempo. You know they got the music videos too. Tempo. Who got the Caribbean views? Tempo. Mr. Latest in Caribbean news. Tempo. You tryna cook Caribbean food? Tempo. You know they got the music videos too. Tempo.
Welcome to our TV network, your ultimate destination for all things exciting and essential. From mouth-watering food to the latest in fashion, health, education, music, movies, and news, plus thrilling sports and breathtaking travel. Our TV network brings it all to you. Tune in today and experience the best of every world, all in one place, rtv.network.
Welcome back. Welcome back to the Coaxum Report. We're so engaged in our conversation that we were missing out on the break. So sorry about that. We were just so deeply engaged. But, you know, I have the wonderful pleasure of having Dr. Jackie on, the co-founder of JJ Disruptive Enterprises. And it's been a super amazing conversation so far. She's been talking about it's never too late, right? Talking about going and getting her doctorate at 58, community and education, making sure that you're pouring into yourself and you're putting yourself first. And staying connected, you know, access your connection, your network is your net worth, right? Access, fostering growth, resources, elevation, all keywords that we've been talking about, a lot of great nuggets. And she's also been talking about pivoting and adapting, right? And so when we think about AI, in the sense that we've just been having this very deep conversation about businesses working smarter, not harder, being ethical in your use, being transparent, letting folks know that this is AI generated, making sure that we're working smarter, not harder, using it as a tool, accessibility, education, trust, and ethics. And AI, and just understanding AI, right? You know, understanding what it does and how it does it. And so these are all like key things that Dr. Jackie has just been giving us a lot of great nuggets around. And she talks about, you know, AI having some biases and ways that we can really make AI our own by being a part of the process instead of apart from the process. One of the things that she talked about, she had an excellent opportunity to be a part of a MasterCard project with a bot that, you know, was thinking like her. Like she was able to take all of her experience and a lot of what she's done with small businesses and be able to mimic it in this bot that they were testing, and just make sure that we're included in this process and just trying to help us be more included. And then we talked about AI in the everyday world and how it's always been here. And so now we're going to jump back in and talk a little bit more about the future of AI, and then we're going to have a call of action, because in this show we talk about the barriers, right? And that digital divide is real and it exists. And the thing that COVID did, Dr. Jackie, and you can attest to this because you work with small business in the technology, and understanding that it showed that there was a huge digital divide, right? Mm-hmm. And so making sure that our businesses have a pay system that they can actually, if it's a swipe on their phone or if it's on a website, that they have a presence, there's a landing for folks to have some traction when those buildings close, having that access to the website or access to that landing page where folks could go on and still sell their widgets was really important, which was something that you set up as a foundation for a lot of business to get through those times in COVID. And this is no different. Helping them to understand and to demystify what AI is really, really important, especially with a business name like JJ Disruptive Enterprises, right? Changing the game, making sure that our folks are included. So I want to jump back in and I want to talk a little bit about what the biggest impact that you've seen so far in enterprises as it relates to AI, and then how JJ Disruptive aims to play in shaping how businesses approach AI adoption and innovation, because there's still going to be some individuals that are still afraid of what it is and what it isn't. And so it's up to us to really help them understand it, but also make sure that there are roadblocks and there are guardrails in place when it comes to the technology, and making sure that people's privacy and intellectual property and all of those things are protected. So talk to us a little bit about how do you believe, or what do you believe the biggest impact of AI is, and then how JJ Disruptive will play in shaping how businesses approach this adoption.
Okay, so the biggest impact right now, we can see it. Whether we want to see it, acknowledge it or not, is there. First of all, large organizations, corporate America is using AI. How is using AI is where, there's
Mhm.
places in AI where I think it's the best thing. And then there's others that it's not. For example, in the medical health industry, I feel definitely guardrails, but it does serve a great purpose in that it can detect certain things that human beings cannot find right off the bat. Doctors, as wonderful as they are, usually you would go for two opinions. Now you could get three, one being an AI, and they may discover something that they overlooked because of the amount of data that it has. Our brains can only hold on for so much. And then
Right.
the reality is, you could go to the doctors, and what do they
That's
do?
right.
They pull out a PDA and they start going, oh, wait a minute, your symptoms, they didn't record all the illnesses. It's on a PDA. So that's where it can help. However, privacy. We have HIPAA. We have to make sure that those guardrails remain in place, that information is not filtered out. Then you're
That's
looking at like HR departments.
That's right.
There, where people are trying to use it, they use it to scan your resume to see if you're going to fit. However, your resume on paper doesn't really say who you are as a human being. And just because someone was able to articulate it on a piece of paper, when you meet them face to face, you're like, okay, these two are not jiving. You have to be aware of that. So, from a human resource perspective,
That's
there's a
right.
lot of issues going on in there. One of the things in my dealings with I received a certification from the London School of Ethics because, again, like I said, it really resonated with me and I wanted to find out more about it. And one of the things they came up were, the policy. Where does government fit in? And where does the private sector fit in?
That's
And
right.
where do we come together to make decisions and set up those guardrails that you referred to? Because for
And that
some
happens.
areas, you need them. I get people that say, oh, there's too much government involved in business. Well, if we lived in an ethical society, that may not be necessary. However, based on my years on this earth and what I've seen in the business world, that's why when I talk about ethics in my class, it's like, give me the soapbox, because here I go. Only because I'm trying to communicate with individuals, with students, the value of being ethical and having integrity. How many businesses we go back in history that really wiped out the lives of certain people because some CEO was super greedy
Yeah.
on top? So that concerns me.
Yeah.
But there's a place, I feel that there is a place and time for each one. Depending on the industry that you're in, that determines whether you can self guard yourself or put up your own barriers and say, or your own guardrails, not barriers, but your own guardrails, and say, we can handle this. And then there's other places where government has to come in and say,
That's right.
we're going to work on this together because we can't let you run amok and do whatever you please just because it's artificial
Right.
intelligence. Because again, like you said before, it can hallucinate. When you're
Right.
talking about the different industries, it is being disruptive. Industries are looking at it and saying, what are we going to put in place to make sure, especially when it comes to a writer, to a creator, that they've created this amazing song lyrics and somebody else takes it over,
Mhm.
creates a voice over it, and done. The same thing with an image. So,
Mhm.
what are we putting in place to ensure that when someone sees it,
That's right.
they know
That's right.
this is artificially created, it's not someone else's? And to make sure, intellectual property is a lot. You develop that, you own that, you have the right to sell it and make money off it. How dare someone else with artificial intelligence come and take it
And
over?
and it's that's right.
So, for me,
That's
in
true.
terms of
That's true.
J&J,
And so it's a lot. Like and
mhm, I was saying, for me, for
and
J&J
so
Disruptive,
J&J disruptive for
yes, for us, it is a matter of, for me, is speaking about it a great deal. We're working on creating podcasts. So this way, individuals in business, no matter who they are, no matter how small their business is, no matter what they're running, how is it that you can use it? How you need to be responsible with it? How you're not, I sat on another talk about a month ago, and it was to researchers regarding AI. And automatically, in my head, I'm thinking researchers, they must be using it. Well, lo and behold, there was something like, no, I don't want to use it. And I'm like, can you explain why not? Because for me, it's going to facilitate. They're like, well, it depends. And I said, you're not required to put any information in. You're asking it for just some feedback. Because sometimes we need that feedback and there's no one there to provide it for us. This is an opportunity for you to get it. No one says you have to use it. I said, you'll be surprised when you ask it something and it responds and you're looking at it, it gives you, let's say, 10 responses and you knew 7 out of the 10, which is fantastic, but there were 3 you were not aware of. So hence creating that opportunity.
That's right. I think another thing when you think about it, absolutely creating that opportunity. And also I think about it in this way too, because I use it for different things. One of the things that I use, I'm looking through all of my archives and I'm looking at all these books and I'm reading up on a particular subject matter, like you said, and I'll say, can you give me some sites or some case studies or something around this? And it'll show me where I can go and get even more information about whatever the topic is that I'm trying to know more about. And so, like you said, those opportunities exist and they're quick. It's a not fast. So I'll put a list of questions and I'll say, make them friendly, make them engaging. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm thinking about it, of thinking about my audience and who am I speaking with? And I just don't want to give them anything. I want it to be engaging and friendly. Or I can say something along the lines of shorten it or give me more feedback or whatever it is. It's so many ways that you can use because it's a large language model. It's a lot of data out there on different things, but you have to be careful. You have to be transparent. You have to understand there are some hallucinations. One of the panelists talked about there was some hallucinations around him that was on AI. Like they put in, and he didn't even know about it. He saw it on the news. Right. It wasn't accurate. It was on the news saying something about him getting arrested around. He was like, what? Like that never happened. So, understanding that it will hallucinate, right?
But that's where the human comes in.
Exactly. So these are all things that is where the human comes in. That is.
So
that is. And that's why it's so important. That's why it's important for us to have this conversation. You have to check it. So now, it's funny how time flies when we're having fun. I'm looking at it. I'm like, no, I need more time. But we're coming to the very end of it. And I just want to see. So there's one other question I want to ask, and it's about individuals and companies that get involved in your mission and to make AI more understandable and accessible. Like, how do we get involved? How do we make it more understandable and more accessible in our own industries, right? So we know about the business industry, and we even know because you wear many hats. We know about it in academia as well. So what about if we're thinking about youth development? What if we're thinking about in the salon industry, the hair industry, the food industry, any other industry? Like, what are some of the things that you think that we can do to kind of get others involved on board for it to be more understandable and more accessible to them as well? For me, I think about my contractors, but what else do you think about?
Well, for me, it goes back to
more accessible,
and it's really about engagement. I have to say, as individuals, we have to partake in what's being created, because when it's able to have a diverse information coming in from diverse groups, then it could really put together, the different backgrounds. Right. Now AI can better identify, and see, are there biases within its own system? And it can actually check itself. In certain AI tools, you can put a derogatory comment and it will come back and tell you, I cannot answer that for you. So how is it being created?
Right.
For us, partake, play with it, play with the tool, the different tools. Yesterday, I was engaged in a conversation with a consultant, and I mean, she's one of my brightest consultants, and she's a techie, and she loves it in so many ways. And both of us kind of did the same dive into AI at the same time. And she found another tool, and she goes, look at what I'm creating for my other side business. And I'm like, what? And as you were saying before, Terry, the voice, she's having a conversation. She goes, listen to this. She's having a conversation. She even gave her ChatGPT a name. So she calls her up because she could, on her phone, she could go with the mic, have a conversation back and forth. Everything is tracked, so she could go back and take out the notes that she needs to further define what kind of new business she's creating. And she allowed me to ask it questions about her. And, I was like, okay, so tell me more about her. What's her new business about? What has she done so far? What is she engaging? And it was able to respond. And she goes, this is the new icebreaker when I'm networking. All I have to do is carry my phone. And she goes, and if that's incorrect,
I love it.
I will tell my bot, her ChatGPT, that's incorrect. You need to correct that in your system. So it's a matter of the things that you could do. It's open. And I just want everyone to feel comfortable.
It's open.
That you can engage with it. Of course, start with the free tools. I always say, don't stay there, especially if you want to add some of your private stuff, then graduate to paying for it. But there's so many free tools that will make your life, especially in the business world, no matter what industry you're in, a lot easier. Because there's the efficiencies that you're not thinking about that it could generate for you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being on the Coaxum Report. Thank you for sharing all of these great nuggets. And if you guys didn't get everything, please remember you can go back and you can listen to us on Roku. You can listen to us on Amazon, on Android. You can listen to us on WS2X Bloomberg. I encourage you to download the app, OurTV.network. I want to thank you, Dr. Jackie, for being a part of this conversation, for being in this space and helping us, and really handicapping it to help us understand that this is a tool. It's not an end all to be all. This is an additional tool to put in our toolbox to work smarter and not harder. Thank you for being in the Coaxum Report. That's right. Take care and be blessed.
Thank you. Be well. Stay.
Welcome to our TV network, your ultimate destination for all things exciting and essential. From mouth-watering food to the latest in fashion, health, education, music, movies, and news, plus thrilling sports and breathtaking travel, our TV network brings it all to you. Tune in today and experience the best of every world, all in one place, OurTV.network.